Let me begin by expressing my profound gratitude to the Chief Executives Network Ghana Limited for organizing this 5th CEO Summit in partnership with Deloitte, the GIPC, and the State Interest and Governance Authority, SIGA. I wish to also thank the organizers for extending an invitation to me to deliver the keynote speech on the theme, Digital Transformation, Powering Business and Government Reset for a Post-Pandemic Economic Resilience, a private sector dialogue. Indeed, the organizers could not have chosen a more suitable theme for this summit for this year, 2021. Putting the spotlight on how digital transformation can unlock Ghana's economic potential in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic is a worthy conversation to have now. Let me further express my appreciation to the Chief Executives Network Ghana Limited and other sponsors for organizing this annual event for the past 6 years, with the objective of continuing to provide a platform to give business leaders and policymakers the opportunity to engage on issues affecting businesses and the economy in the age of digital transformation. Ladies and gentlemen, building a resilient economy has been the focus of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo's government since January 2017, when we first came into office. When we came into office, we immediately set ourselves to work. In the area of technology, I invited a number of companies, including fintechs and startups to join me to Silicon Valley. We engaged a number of IT solutions companies, experimenting with innovative ideas, doing research into different areas of applications from agriculture to medicine, in the delivery of financial services, and in machine learning or artificial intelligence. On our return, I invited these companies back to the Jubilee House and charged them to help provide solutions to our development bottlenecks and promised them our fullest support in any area of application, especially in 3 areas: how to improve the business environment, how to address government administrative bottlenecks in service delivery to households and to the business sectors, and how to formalize the economy. In 2020, the COVID-19 pandemic raged the world and severely affected all aspects of our lives. The pandemic undoubtedly affected businesses and economies globally, leading to immeasurable losses in various sectors. Key drivers of economic growth suffered. Business slowdown and disruptions in global supply chains and trade threatened financial markets and the financial system as a whole. The reverse multiplier effects and the imperatives to save lives put public finances at risk. Many governments prioritized lives over the economy. Soon, not only were we confronted with the challenge of social disruptions, but also the challenge of saving the economy so that we can continue to provide needed savings to households and businesses. A large number of businesses were forced to shut down totally, and others had to operate significantly reduced capacities. Ghanaian businesses were also significantly affected in diverse ways, creating high levels of uncertainty and a plunge in business confidence. Ladies and gentlemen, the world in the year 2021 continues to live in uncertain times and moving in uncertain directions. COVID-19 continues to put public health at risk. Nimbly, Ghana has made a combination of social and economic interventions and policy choices on many fronts. What Ghana has done and continues to do square well with the way advanced economies are carrying out the fight against the pandemic. And in some cases, we are doing even better. We continue to deploy an array of social economic interventions, temporarily lowering the bar on fiscal prudence, and continue to revise policy choices and interventions as needed. The central bank ably is doing its part, lowering interest rates, easing liquidity, mindful not to ignite inflation more than the economy can handle and more than what people expect. With the expectations that the pandemic will wane soon, the Ghana Cares program laid out a set of policy pathways and instruments to stabilize the economy and stimulate recovery in the shortest possible time. Ladies and gentlemen, what is left is how the private sector would respond to the policy innovations and interventions which government has put together. We will continue with our comprehensive efforts to save lives, safeguard the educational system, minimize interruptions in the educational system, ensure micro, small, medium, and large enterprises continue to thrive and continue to fuel the economy even as the pandemic persists. It is in the middle of all these challenges that we must continue to re-examine our ways and means of doing things, from home to the office, from the farm to the factory, between government and citizens and businesses and vice versa. We must continue to challenge ourselves on how to deliver learning services, our conventional notion of the classroom, and how to deliver and manage our health system. It is absolutely imperative to reset and reignite business and the economy in these times to ensure continuous growth and development of the Ghanaian economy. The pandemic has presented a much-needed opportunity with which we can reset the economy while still building upon the solid foundation laid before 2020. The COVID-19 pandemic has demonstrated ample systematic flaws in the way we do things, including the way we conduct business, thereby requiring us to rethink and reorient ourselves and our businesses. We cannot succeed if we hold on to the old ways of doing things. If we want to survive, we will have to dwell on the lessons learned from the pandemic going forward. Our government continues to take steps to sanitize the regulatory environment for the conduct of business in Ghana. Our efforts at digitization, by working towards a cash-light economy, providing a framework for electronic incorporation and regulation of business entities under the new Companies Act and e-procurement, to mention a few, are all aimed at making it easier to conduct business in Ghana. I appreciate the fact that we can do more, and this is in this regard, I wish to extend a warm invitation to the business community to engage us on measures they will want the government to put in place to make it easier for them to do business. It is essential to mention that in our bid to reset business and the economy, digitization has an enormous role to play. One of the lessons the pandemic has taught us is that digitization is the future, a future that perhaps started yesterday. Businesses will by necessity have to integrate appropriate digital technologies in their operations and service delivery in order to increase productivity and output. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, one of the biggest issues that has confronted our economy and many African economies has been the highly informal nature, along with the manual, bureaucratic, and cumbersome processes involved in the delivery of government services. All of that increases the cost of doing business. We had a situation where over 90% of the population had no unique identity. There was no working address system. Over 70% of the eligible population had no bank accounts. Most transactions were cash-based. And less than 10% of the population had tax identification numbers. Clearing goods at the port was a nightmare. Obtaining driver's licenses, passports, or renewing your NHIS card were very problematic. Purchasing electricity units for your meter was a problem. Birth certificates and obtaining birth certificates and manual court processes and so on were inefficient and costly. And so this situation resulted in a difficulty in solving crimes, in higher interest rates at banks, delays in obtaining government services, lower government revenue, and so on. While this set of facts has long been recognized, no government has taken a systematic and concerted effort to address it. We just, over the years, lived with the problem rather than try to solve it. At the time, after I left the Bank of Ghana in 2009, beginning of 2009, of course, having just lost an election, I left the Bank of Ghana and then went out as a visiting scholar to Oxford University, where I wrote a book on monetary policy and financial sector reform in Africa. That period gave me a lot of time for reflection on what we had done since independence, and the book chronicles monetary policy and economic policy from independence through to 2008, basically. And I looked at the effectiveness of all that we were doing, particularly the question that kept coming back to mind was, what are we doing? How come the interest rates that we want to decline are not declining? For the most part, monetary policy would bring down the monetary policy rate, will bring down the interest rates, but lending rates remain stubbornly high. And one needed to really get to the bottom of this. Why are all these inefficient processes in the bureaucracy and so on taking place? It became obvious as I reached at the conclusion of that book that just getting the macro economy right was not sufficient. Getting inflation down was not sufficient. Getting exchange rates stable was not sufficient. There were certain micro foundations or systems that need to be in place for our economy to be able to deliver the low interest rates that will drive business and economic activity. But for the longest time, as we interacted with the IMF, the World Bank, and so on, you realize that nobody is going to come and tell you that these micro foundations, you have to put them in place. Nobody would tell you that if you don't put in a digital address system, we will not give you a loan. Or if you don't have a national ID, we'll make it a condition. So there were all these things which I refer to as the unwritten rules of the game. Because if you are in a game, you must understand the rules. If you don't understand the rules and you are playing, you will keep losing the game. But some of these rules are not written in our economic textbooks. They are unwritten rules, but you know that if you are an economy and you don't have a working address system, you're not going to go very far. If you cannot uniquely identify the population in your country, you are not going to go very far as an economy. You can have exchange rate stability and lower fiscal deficits and so on, but you are going to be just operating in a low-level equilibrium. You would not move up to a higher level. And moving up to the higher level is what we want to do. Now, if you look at the trajectory, therefore, that we decided to take, the government of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo made the strategic decision to address these chronic problems by digitizing the Ghanaian economy and government services. The overarching objective of this digital drive is to formalize the economy, increase government revenue, fight corruption, and ultimately provide public services to citizens more efficiently and more conveniently. Digitization essentially removes the human interface. And if you look at the problems we had, whether it's at the passport office or the driver's license office or the ports or the births and deaths registry or the Ghana GRA Revenue Authority, all these interfaces, all the problems we were having in these different areas was because of the human interface. And as they say, nipa ye bad. The human interface, you will encounter corruption immediately because the systems were very bureaucratic and manual. And so we decided to digitize. And so we needed to put certain pillars in place. Issue national ID cards to all Ghanaians, implement a functional address system, provide bank accounts to the bankable, those people who are eligible for bank accounts, implement mobile money interoperability, digitize the provision of government services, and so on. I'm very happy to note that we've made tremendous progress on all these fronts, and Ghana is clearly on its way to become one of the most digitized economies in Africa within the next 2 years. Specifically, we've issued the National Biometric ID card, which no government has been able to do since independence. So far, we have 15.5 million people who have been enrolled, and we expect that this process for the above 15 years demographic, those above 15 years of age, that process will be completed this year. We will then move into the schools and do those below 15 years of age. But this national ID system that has been implemented has provided Ghana a database that will be the anchor for all transactions in the future. We are about to move into a new economy, if you haven't already realized that, because it is going to provide a single source of truth and a unique identity for all transactions across the spectrum. And so this year, what we've been doing since we came into office has been the integration of the national ID database with other databases, key databases. So we've integrated it with SNIT, we've integrated it with GRA, and with GRA, for example, up to 2016, TIN numbers in Ghana were 750,000. By just making the TIN number your national ID number, we've immediately increased it from 750,000 in 2016 to 15.5 million as at now, in terms of people with tax ID numbers. We have integrated the national ID with the NHIS, and we are moving on to Controller and Accountant General's Department. The ghost workers will not be happy, but we are doing that now. We are in discussions with the banks and the Bank of Ghana. The Bank of Ghana is driving, all bank accounts will be linked to a national ID number, and the process will start soon, and banks will start, once the process starts, they will start accepting and verifying the individuals using the national ID card. I expect, as the Minister for Communications and Digitalization, will soon announce that we will all, from maybe end of June or beginning of July this year, everybody will have to register their SIM with a national ID number. So we all have to do that, otherwise we lose that SIM. And that will really give us a real identity for all Momo transactions, for example. And it then takes away fraud that is taking place, whether it's SIM box or through Momo and so on. We will discard all of that. We will also, we are also doing the births and deaths registry. The digitization there is about 80% complete now. But what we are putting in place with the births and deaths registry is a system where we hope from next year, when a child is born, right at birth, within a month, each child will be given a unique national ID number across the country. And that will help us maintain that database right from birth all the way to death. So it's really a different country that we are trying to move into. I know that it was a challenge. What we have done in Ghana was a challenge. When we met with the NIA and the Margins Group, initially they had wanted to issue very, very delayed cards because it was, but we said that given the nature of our people, you should do instant issuance of these cards, because a lot of the times if people have cards, they may not return for them. And we should try to do instant issuance. But they pointed us out that no country in the world had done instant issuance of national ID cards before. So we said, well, we will be the first, and we were the first. So thank you very much for making that happen. We've implemented a digital address system, capturing every square inch of land or water in Ghana. In the process of implementing the digital address system, we have provided unique addresses for 7.5 million properties in Ghana. We have identified 7.5 million, including huts in all the villages, 7.5 million properties, and we are providing digital addresses and street addresses to all those houses and properties. The Land Use and Spatial Planning Authority has provided street names and house numbers for every unnamed street, and we are affixing address plates for every property, and we will continue to do that. There are 7.5 million. The first phase will deal with 4 million properties, and the next phase will deal with 3.5 million properties. We've already begun discussions, and they are going very well with Google, and if all goes well, they will incorporate Ghana's property address system into Google Maps, and we will move from there. This is the first time since independence that Ghana will have a complete property address system. And for businesses, nobody really needs to tell you the implications, the impact of having a unique property addressing system in the country. You just think about it, whether it's America or the UK or Germany, if today the address systems disappear, just the address systems, those economies will collapse, just like that. They cannot function without address systems. And so the opportunity cost of not having these address systems for e-commerce and so on is just huge. Delivery of services and so on is huge. And we are really very, very, very happy that Ghana has been able to do this. Of course, there's the groundbreaking mobile money interoperability, which has also been implemented. The mobile money payments interoperability has made it easy for transfer of money across different telcos and between bank accounts and mobile wallets. That is the unique feature of Ghana's interoperability. You're not just going between different telcos, but between bank accounts and mobile wallets. And since you have so much in the system, it has solved the major problem of people having access to bank accounts, because of mobile money interoperability, bank accounts or mobile money accounts are essentially functioning like bank accounts. The data shows that Ghana currently is the fastest growing mobile money market in Africa, and the total value of mobile money transactions in 2020 during this pandemic was 569 billion Ghana cedis. That's about $100 billion in 2020. It's just mind-boggling, right? Mobile money transactions in 1 year, because of interoperability, have reached $100 billion in Ghana. Now, checks, on the other hand, amounted to 180 billion instead of the 569 billion for mobile money. So checks are slowly, of course, I think it wouldn't be long, Deputy Governor. I think checks will soon be history as we go on. But when you think about it, we invested $4.5 million to set up mobile money interoperability. Just $4.5 million, and it's generating transaction of about $100 billion. So you see the impact of that and on why this soft infrastructure can have far-reaching economic implications. You could have built an interchange, for example, for $50 million, but the impact on the economy would be much, much less when you look at this happening. So we are looking at this. We've also brought in the universal QR code, which is also unique in its own way, to reduce the dominance of cash in the economy. We needed a system which would bring in everybody. The point-of-sale devices that banks have are not accessible to your waakye sellers or the trotro or operators or your tomato sellers in the market or Kobe sellers. Those, systems, the point-of-sale devices are too expensive. But these are where a large volume of transactions are taking place. So if you want to go into a cashless or cash-light economy, you must have a system that allows electronic usage of these systems by every merchant. And this is why we thought that we should leverage on our mobile money interoperability, which everybody uses mobile money, bank accounts, and so on, and bring in a universal QR code, which is available to every merchant. Shoeshine boys can have their QR codes, and the QR codes are basically free to have. So everybody can have a QR code. Even beggars can obtain their QR code in case you don't have cash on you. They can, the beggar can give you their QR code, and then you can send them cash. We are catering for everybody. Nobody will be left behind. Even the YAM phones can be very effective. You can use a USSD code for the YAM phone, so it doesn't have to be a smartphone. But we're about to really roll this out in a big way, and it will really reduce a lot of cash transactions. And for a lot of businesses, keeping cash is a big risk with armed robberies, even traders traveling with cash. But with a QR code, universal QR code, anybody with a mobile money account or a bank account can use it. And the fintechs are doing their own QRs and so on. We are encouraging that we move in this direction for people to get used to it and for cash to be reduced in our. But then you will have a lot more efficiency in the system. So today, the outcomes from our digitization drive are paying off. These initiatives are aimed at digitizing all sectors of the Ghanaian economy to ensure efficiency and ultimately achieve digital transformation. For businesses, a digital economy translates into a conducive environment for conducting businesses and for increasing profits. This year, we are going to be big in the land registry. This has been one area where we need to really complete the digitization process of the land registry, because land is really a major bottleneck in terms of business development, and so much capital is locked up, you don't know who owns it, transferring it becomes a problem, and so we need transparency, and so we are doing that. Digitization of the hospitals is taking place, the senior high schools, there's a whole gamut. At least 90% of the senior high schools now are supposed to be covered. I hope they are all covered, and I think they are by free Wi-Fi now, and we're going to continue to doing that. To all chief executives and business leaders gathered here today, I encourage you all to diligently enhance your operations with innovative digital technology and to drive business evolution and for survival. Also, notions of sustainability and long-term value maximization must be at the core of the governance and operations of businesses. Businesses need to recognize and appreciate the contribution of social and environmental factors and interactions on their operations and output. To adequately prepare for the unpredictable occurrences such as COVID-19, we should focus on building sustainable businesses and an economy that will remain resilient even in the face of the crisis. The pandemic has taught us that businesses are intimately connected with society, and such intimate connection will require businesses to be responsive to the needs of all stakeholders. The attainment of the Sustainable Development Goals, as well as Agenda 2063, is an aspiration we must all continue to collaborate and work towards in our quest to reset the economy and businesses during the COVID-19 pandemic. We must remain committed to achieving these goals. I will take this opportunity to charge all decision makers of businesses gathered here today to take advantage of this summit to forge key partnerships that will constitute a formidable force in our bid to reset businesses and the economy. The fight is against a common enemy and not against each other. The exchange of ideas and resources is cardinal if we are to emerge victorious from the negative conditions created by the pandemic. Addressing the socioeconomic impact of the pandemic also required that we vaccinate as many people as possible against the virus in order to revitalize safe economic activity that will grow our economy. We vaccinated close to 1 million people, and we will do more subject to obtaining more vaccines. Our vaccination quest is a glaring testament of government's commitment to getting the economy back on track, and government will strive to ensure that a majority of Ghanaians are vaccinated in order to achieve herd immunity. We've now, however, decided to digitize the vaccination card, which you will receive when you get vaccinated, so that the card is now being embossed with a QR code, so that wherever you go in the world, when they digitally check your vaccination, they will see that indeed you have had 1 vaccination or 2 vaccinations, and therefore it cannot be altered. And this is the advantage of it, so that we become part of the global citizenry. And I think that will be good for Ghana. I wish you all the very best in your deliberations, and we look forward to the outcome of your deliberations.